In 1944, a German prisoner watched an American guard hide a blood-stained envelope beneath the floor of an empty tool shed, then promised never to reveal what he had seen, even when investigators accused him of helping a man disappear beyond the camp fence, because the secret inside that envelope could destroy the guard's family, expose a second crime, and explain why the prisoner kept silent for 40 years. In September 1944, heavy rain flooded the roads around Camp Grant, a temporary German prisoner camp in rural Missouri. Corporal Thomas Hale guarded Barrack 6, where Otto Weiss, a former Army medic from Cologne, translated medical instructions and treated minor injuries under American supervision. Near midnight, Hale received a telephone call from his wife at a farmhouse 3 miles away. Their 8-year-old son, Peter, had collapsed after his insulin bottle shattered, while the county doctor remained trapped across a washed-out bridge and the camp ambulance had already left for another emergency. Hale asked the camp medic for insulin, but the locked dispensary required the duty officer's authorization. The officer refused to release medicine for a civilian without a doctor's order, then told Hale to remain at his post until the morning shift arrived. Otto heard the exchange through the infirmary window and recognized the symptoms Hale described. He explained that the boy could slip into a coma before daylight, then showed Hale how to measure a replacement dose from an emergency vial stored inside the camp's veterinary cabinet. Hale opened the cabinet with a maintenance key and found the vial, but he could not read the dosage marks clearly in the dim light. Otto offered to prepare the injection, while warning that one wrong amount could be as dangerous as waiting. The guard unlocked a service gate and placed Otto inside a supply truck beneath a canvas cover. He recorded no movement in the gate book, left another guard watching 2 sections of fence, and drove into the storm with the emergency vial hidden inside his coat. Floodwater blocked the main road, forcing Hale to turn through an orchard and stop beside a collapsed wooden bridge. Otto tied a rope around his waist, crossed the broken span on foot, and pulled a narrow farm boat back through the current. They reached the Hale farmhouse shortly after 1 o'clock, where Peter lay unconscious beside the kitchen stove. Otto checked his breathing, prepared a careful dose, and directed Hale's wife to warm blankets while he waited for the child's pulse to strengthen. Peter opened his eyes after several minutes and asked for water, but headlights appeared beyond the barn before anyone could celebrate. A military patrol had found the abandoned supply truck beside the bridge and was moving toward the farmhouse with orders to arrest any missing prisoner. Hale's wife carried Peter into the pantry while Otto removed his marked coat and climbed into the empty hayloft. Hale met the patrol at the yard, claimed the truck had stalled during a medicine delivery, and persuaded the soldiers to inspect the flooded bridge before entering the house. Hale folded the used syringe, the veterinary label, and his wife's written account into an envelope stained by Otto's cut hand. He hid it beneath a loose board in the tool shed, then asked Otto to trust him as they returned toward the road, because admitting how the prisoner had left camp could end Hale's service and separate him from the family he had just saved. Subscribe for more forgotten German POW stories like this one. Hale and Otto reached the camp before dawn by following the railway embankment, but the service gate stood open and the night siren had already begun. A prisoner named Franz Keller was missing from Barrack 6, and footprints led from the same gate Hale had used. Sergeant Miles found Otto outside the wire with mud on his trousers and ordered him to the ground. Hale reported that he had discovered the prisoner near the flooded bridge, carefully avoiding any mention of the farmhouse or the medicine taken from the veterinary cabinet. Investigators searched Otto and found a strip of Peter's blanket caught on his sleeve. Otto claimed he had taken it from a roadside shed, while Hale watched the evidence enter a sealed bag that could connect both men to the house. The camp commander questioned Otto inside the records office and demanded Keller's destination. Otto denied seeing the escapee, but the commander interpreted his refusal to explain the blanket as proof that the 2 prisoners had planned the route together. Hale was ordered to write a full account of the recapture. He began with the truth, tore the page apart, then submitted a false report stating that Otto had crossed the service road alone and surrendered after being challenged near the bridge. The report protected Hale, but it created a stronger case against Otto. The commander canceled Otto's medical duties, placed him in isolation, and announced that he would be transferred to a disciplinary camp after the flood roads reopened. Meanwhile, Keller entered a feed store outside town and tried to exchange German coins for dry clothes. The owner locked the front door, telephoned the sheriff, and kept Keller talking until deputies arrived from the county road. Keller carried a hand-drawn map of the camp drainage system and a list of addresses taken from Hale's desk. When questioned, he claimed Otto had opened the gate and provided the map, hoping the accusation would reduce his own punishment. Sergeant Miles searched Hale's guard station and discovered that one page had been removed from the gate book. He also found a damp pencil mark beside the veterinary cabinet number, showing that someone had checked the storage location shortly before the escape. Hale entered Otto's isolation room under the excuse of delivering food and warned that Keller had blamed him. Otto answered that Peter's life mattered more than his transfer, then promised that the farmhouse would never be mentioned unless Hale chose to speak first. Before Hale could respond, the camp commander entered with Keller's map and ordered Otto to identify every marked route. Otto recognized that the drawing had been copied from a maintenance chart hanging near Hale's post, yet he said only that Keller had watched the guards more carefully than anyone realized. By evening, the commander charged Otto with aiding an escape and falsifying his movements outside the wire. Hale returned home under armed escort to collect his uniform records, while the blood-stained envelope remained beneath the toolshed floor, and Peter slept safely inside the farmhouse. 2 days later, a military review board arrived and moved Otto's hearing into the camp chapel because the records office had flooded. Keller repeated his accusation before 3 officers, while Hale sat behind the witness table with the false report folded inside his pocket. The board displayed the blanket thread, the drainage map, and the missing gatebook page. Otto admitted leaving the camp, but he refused to explain where he had gone or why he had returned, allowing the officers to treat silence as evidence of a planned escape. Hale was called next and confirmed the account he had written. When an officer asked whether he had opened the service gate at any time that night, Hale answered no, turning the secret into an official lie that could no longer be corrected without exposing both men. The board ordered Otto transferred to Camp Alton, where prisoners accused of escape receive fewer privileges and no outside work. Before the truck departed, the camp medic removed Otto's bandage and noticed the cut matched the blood found on the hidden blanket thread. At the Hale farmhouse, Peter developed a fever around the injection site, and his mother summoned the county doctor after the roads reopened. The doctor examined the empty veterinary vial, realized that someone trained had measured the dose correctly, and demanded to know who had treated the boy. Hale's wife refused to repeat the false story given to the patrol. She wrote a second statement naming Otto, sealed it with the doctor's report, and carried both papers toward the camp before Hale intercepted her at the front gate. Their argument drew Sergeant Miles from the guardhouse, forcing Hale to claim the documents concerned family leave. He took the envelope home, placed it beside the first one beneath the toolshed floor, and warned his wife that disclosure could send Otto to trial, as well as end his own career. Otto arrived at Camp Alton during a prisoner protest caused by spoiled food and canceled mail. Several men recognized him as the alleged informer who had helped an American guard, and they blocked him from entering the medical line when a sick prisoner collapsed. Instead of retreating, Otto treated the man with supplies taken from an unattended cart, then organized others to carry him to the infirmary. The camp doctor restored Otto's medical assignment after witnessing the rescue, but the escape charge remained on his permanent record. Keller was sentenced separately and sent to another facility, where he admitted to a chaplain that Otto had never helped him. The chaplain forwarded the confession to Camp Grant, yet the document arrived after Hale had been reassigned overseas and Otto had already disappeared into the transfer system. The review board removed the accusation of assisting Keller, but left the unauthorized escape finding unchanged because Otto still refused to name his destination. That decision delayed his repatriation, erased his chance for trusted work, and marked him as a security risk in every camp that received his file. When Hale's transport ship left the United States, his wife mailed Otto a photograph of Peter standing beside the tool shed. The camp censor returned it because no forwarding address could be found, leaving the photograph inside a desk where the boy's rescuer would never see it. Otto returned to Germany in 1947 with the escape notation still attached to his release papers. He opened a small medical supply shop in Cologne, married, and placed every American camp document inside a locked drawer without telling his family why one page described him as a man who had abandoned custody. Hale returned from overseas and remained in the Army until an injury ended his service. He never discussed the flood night with Peter, but each September he drove to the former camp road, stopped beside the rebuilt bridge, and returned home without explaining the journey. In 1984, a tornado damaged the Hale farmhouse and tore the tool shed from its foundation. Peter, now a physician, helped clear the debris and found 2 sealed envelopes beneath a loose floorboard, protected inside an old ammunition box. The first envelope contained the used syringe wrapper, the veterinary label, and his mother's account of the night Otto treated him. The second held the county doctor's report, the rejected camp statement, and the photograph that had been returned because Otto's location was unknown. Peter confronted his father at a nursing home and placed the papers across the bedside table. Hale admitted opening the gate and lying at the hearing, but he insisted that Otto had chosen silence after understanding that a court-martial would leave Peter's mother without income or a home. Peter asked why the truth had remained buried after the war, when no prison sentence could separate the family. Hale opened a metal box in his wardrobe and produced 4 letters addressed to Otto, each returned from Germany because the street names had changed during Reconstruction. The final letter contained a complete confession and instructions for correcting Otto's military record. Hale had written it in 1952 after learning that the escape notation could affect immigration and employment, yet he had stopped searching when every attempt to locate Otto failed. Peter contacted the Red Cross Tracing Service and submitted Otto's prisoner number from the old hearing report. The search reached a German veterans archive, where a clerk located an Otto Weiss running a medical shop under the same birth date. A telephone call connected the 2 men for the first time, but Otto ended the conversation when Peter mentioned publishing the documents. He explained that Hale had built a life, raised a child, and carried the burden privately, so exposing the lie while the guard remained alive would turn an act of desperation into public disgrace. Peter traveled to Cologne with copies of the envelopes and found Otto closing his shop. He showed him the confession, expecting anger, but Otto placed the paper beside his original transfer record and revealed that he had known Hale, tried to find him, because one damaged letter had reached him in 1956. The reversal left Peter facing a truth larger than his father's lie, because Otto had not remained silent from fear, resentment, or lack of proof. He had deliberately kept the secret after receiving the confession, protecting the American Guard long after any military punishment had become unlikely. Otto agreed to correct only the false escape charge while Hale lived, without identifying the farmhouse or the child. Peter accepted the condition and returned to Missouri, carrying a copied medical report that proved Otto had saved someone beyond the camp fence, but still concealed whose life had depended on him. The Army Review Office reopened Otto's file after receiving the doctor's report, Keller's old confession, and Hale's written statement. Investigators removed the accusation that Otto had assisted an escape, but they refused to erase the unauthorized departure without a full account of where he had gone. Peter asked Otto for permission to submit the farmhouse documents, and Otto refused again because Hale was still alive. Instead, he signed a narrow statement confirming that he had left to provide emergency medical aid, while withholding the patient's identity and the guard who opened the gate. The review board accepted that an emergency had occurred but ruled that the missing names prevented a final correction. Otto folded the decision into his old prisoner papers and returned to work, while Peter began visiting Hale each week with updates the former guard could no longer answer clearly. Hale died in the spring of 1985, leaving Peter the metal box of returned letters and a final note addressed to Otto. The note released him from the promise, asked that the complete truth be recorded, and stated that 40 years of protection had already been more mercy than Hale deserved. Peter flew to Cologne and delivered the note inside Otto's shop. Otto read it beside the same locked drawer that held his camp records, then removed the blood-stained envelope he had received from Hale's wife after tracing her address years earlier. The envelope contained the original syringe label and Peter's childhood photograph beside the tool shed. Otto had preserved both without using them to defend himself, because revealing the patient would also have revealed the guard's unauthorized action and false testimony. Otto agreed to return to Missouri for a public review at the former camp chapel. Peter arranged for the county doctor's surviving records, Hale's gate report, Keller's confession, and the 2 hidden envelopes to be displayed before Army representatives and local witnesses. At the hearing, Otto described crossing the flooded bridge, measuring the insulin, and returning before dawn. Peter then identified himself as the child from the farmhouse, placing his medical license beside the photograph as visible proof that the boy Hale feared losing had lived long enough to become a doctor. The Army representative replaced Otto's escape finding with a record of emergency medical assistance performed outside authorized custody. He also entered Hale's confession into the archive, preserving both the rescue and the lie instead of allowing either man to appear cleaner than the evidence showed. A reporter asked Otto why he had accepted punishment when the envelopes could have cleared him decades earlier. Otto answered that a secret given during a child's crisis did not become worthless when the crisis ended, and that Hale had eventually tried to tell the truth even when he could no longer find the man he had harmed. Peter carried the corrected record to his father's grave, while Otto placed the childhood photograph beneath the former guard's name for one afternoon. Before leaving, he removed it again and handed it to Peter, saying that the evidence belonged with the life created by that night rather than with the mistake buried below. The final irreversible act came when the complete file entered the National Archive and copies traveled to Otto's family in Germany. What had survived beneath a floor, inside returned letters, and behind 2 men's silence could no longer be lost, altered, or carried to another grave. Once more beside the rebuilt bridge as Peter opened the corrected Army file. He removed Hale's final note, folded it around the old syringe label, and placed both inside the archive envelope before sealing it. Peter then gave him the returned childhood photograph, this time without a censor's stamp or missing address. Otto carried it home to Cologne, while the official record remained in Missouri, finally showing why one prisoner left the wire, why one guard lied, and why neither man had allowed the secret to die with him. Most people know how World War II ended. Very few know what happened inside these prison camps. Subscribe for more Untold WWII stories.